case is called, please step up to the podium. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Sharon Edwards, 16 East.
Can you speak into the microphone? We can't hear.
Sharon Edwards, 16 East Maple Street, Central Islip, New York, 11722.
Good. How are you tonight?
Good.
You here for family use only? Dad lives with you?
Yes.
Age is the criteria? Everything's in order, man?
Everything's in order. Your dad's doing fine?
Yes.
Okay.
He's blind.
Usually he comes to the hearings.
No, last 3 years is me.
Okay.
He's blind.
Great.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, see in 3 years.
Thank you.
This application is number 507-21. Hector T. and Maria Ugariza, to renew permit for family use only, residence AA district, north side of Walbridge Avenue, number 57, 150 feet east of East 3rd Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, ma'am. Name and address for the record, please.
At 57 Walbridge Avenue, Bay Shore, New York, 11706.
And your name?
Lizette Mercado.
How are you tonight?
Good, and yourself?
Good. You renew
Oh,
permit
thank
to,
you.
you can pull it down when you speak.
Okay, thanks.
But you can pull the microphone if you need to.
Okay.
Renew permit to family use only. Age is the criteria. Everything's in order, man?
Yes. Is this your parents with you?
Yes, they are. They're 86 and 88, so.
Okay. Can you just say your name again? I didn't.
Lizette Mercado?
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, everything's in order.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, see you in 3 years.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a good
Next
evening.
application number 508-21, Santos and Dania Cruz, to renew permit for family use only, residence B district, north side of McWhorter Street, number 9, 175.99 feet east of Jefferson Avenue, Brentwood, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Second call, Mr. Chairman.
Second call, sir.
Next application number 509-21, Robert and Christine Schlitt, permission to leave in-ground pool having a rear yard of 17.4 feet instead of the required 18 feet, residence AAA district, west side of West Lane, number 76, 108 feet south of Okanee Walk, Bay Shore, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York, for the applicant. As you can see, this is a de minimis request, 18-foot setback. Apparently, we missed by about 8 inches, this much. Looks like somebody went off the fence instead of the lot line. As you can see from the survey you may have in front of you, the fence is approximately 0.8 to 0.9 west of the lot line, hence the mistake. I don't think that this would be a detrimental impact to the community. I don't think it would change the nature or character of the area, and hopefully the board sees it the same way.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions?
I just a comment. I would like to thank Mr. Bertolino for helping me in relaxing the dress code in the summer. Yeah, he has set a new standard.
I really didn't recognize you when you walked
I will
up.
strive towards that.
I didn't
I didn't
either.
recognize you.
Where's your beach blanket and beach ball and shovel?
I think it was confiscated at Ocean Beach there, Judge.
The land of no.
Mr. Nicole, you're quite welcome. Have a good evening.
Mr. Cole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period.
Nope.
Motion to grant the
Forever.
application. Forever.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good
Next
night.
application number 510-21, Claudel M. and Aganella C. Barrow,
Oh, I think I better take off.
permission to leave pool patio having a side yard of 2 feet instead of the required 6 feet, residence B district, south side of John Street, number 12, 193.14 feet west of Park Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Sir, name and address for the record, please.
Claudel Barrow, 12 John Street, Bay Shore, New York.
I got the last name right?
You
And
could,
this is Anjanella.
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 Very-
I apologize
Anjanella.
to you, ma'am.
Very pretty.
It's a lovely name.
She lives with me also. That's my wife.
if you feel more comfortable speaking, you can pull the mask down. It's up to you. You have a pool patio, 2 instead of 6. It's a little small area of the pool patio. Find it de minimis. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application is granted. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Have a-
Next application number 511-21, Christian P. and Luis V. Gomez. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-602. Residence B District, south side of Arthur Street, number 10, 250 feet west of Lincoln Avenue, Brentwood, New York. Anyone here for the applicant?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
Great. And your sidekick?
John Trella. John Trella.
Great. Nice to meet you, John, again. So you're here seeking permission for accessory apartment, appears to be 308 square feet, driveway complies. Everything else in order, Mayor?
Yes.
Anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for 3 years. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Two more.
Application granted.
Next application number 512-21, Marvin J. Castellano. Permission to leave a one-story addition having a side yard of 11.2 feet and window wells having a side yard of 8.5 feet instead of the required 14 feet each. Shed having a side yard of 2.3 feet, rear yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet each, to establish a two-family, family use only, pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-419.1, Residence B District, north side of Hemlock Street, number 3, 100 feet east of Lowell Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Ms. Trella, your appearance, please.
Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you. So we're here for a one-story addition that's requesting a side yard relief of 11.2 instead of the required 14 feet. A small shed, 2.3 in the side and 1 foot in the rear instead of the required 4. The window wells are for the egress windows that needed to be input for fire safety, and then for a two-family family use permit.
Great. It's based on age, two-family, family use only?
I believe so.
Everything, yep, 72. Everything else in order, Mayor?
Yes, everything's in order. The mother of the property owner is 72 years of age.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
We got two families.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years to grant the application.
All in favor? Application granted.
Next application number 348-21. This application has been adjourned from June 15th, 2021 and July 6th, 2021. Daniel Adio, permission to leave a dwelling, have a side yard of 13.4 feet instead of required 14 feet, height of 29.2 feet instead of the permitted 28 feet, to leave additions to detached garage having a rear yard of 3.5 feet instead of required 10 feet, and a height of 14.2 feet instead of the permitted 14 feet, to leave driveway and walkway on side property line not having a required setback of 4 feet, to leave egress windows having a side yard of 9.8 feet instead of required 14 feet, and to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-602, with relief requested from Section 68-613, requiring dwelling to be at least 7 years old, Residence B District, east side of Washington Avenue, number 27, 100 feet south of Jackson Avenue, East Islip. Ms. Trella, your appearance, please.
Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
How are you tonight?
Okay, thank you. So basically what brings us to the board tonight is my client had a fire in his house. And during that fire, his wife passed away. So he wanted to keep the house. He filed for permits to reconstruct the dwelling. They submitted plans. The plans were approved and a permit was issued. They did have the initial building inspections all throughout up into the insulation phase. For some reason, the height being 29.2 instead of the 28 wasn't caught during those initial inspections. It wasn't until they wanted us to verify it that we had a final survey done that brought us to a lot of these things into question, which is the dwelling height of 29.2, the side yard of 13.4. This house was reconstructed on the same foundation. The foundation was not redone in any way. It was built in the exact location where it previously existed. And the egress windows had to be put in order for the finished basement to meet fire safety code. So that takes care of the side yard of 9.8 instead of the 14 feet that's required. The detached garage existed. It did exist in the exact location with a 3.5 rear yard, and it was CO'd at 500 square feet. What he did was build a small shed, and he attached it to the detached garage. So those two small additions for those small sheds are what brings it now to, before the board for the relief. And the height is the same height that the detached garage has always been. It's 14.2. They match the same line of the existing detached garage.
All righty. Deirdre from planning, any objection?
I understand the height, but there is no precedent for it, for either the garage or the house. And the rear yard is 3.5. That would have been less of a big ask when it is the 500 square foot, and now if they would add on, it just seems like a bigger profile. It's not up against someone's, it's technically against someone's backyard. Kind of their rear yard, their backyard, but it's like their side yard, it's not backyard. So I'm not sure what kind of precedent would impose on a neighbor in that way. Those are the two complaints.
May I inquire, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Ms. Trella, we have no precedent then for what I see as the issue is the enlargement of the garage.
Okay.
I don't know, at 3.5 feet instead of 10, and it's not as though we've seen 525 square foot, 530, this is 757. I don't think we can grant it. You know that I'm a slave to precedent. And I think that we create problems because we couldn't say no to the next person. So I would, in my mind, the application is not, I understand the height is 0.2. Nobody's going to get crazy. That's 2.4 inches. But I think the 3.5 instead of 10 is problematic for me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, Roxanne, as you said, if the garage was 500, it won't have to require, I'm sorry, as Deidre said, it only require 4 instead of 10. The addition seems to be the one that's throwing it over to 500 of that garage.
Yeah, so the initial garage already was at the 500 feet. So it's just the two small additions that were put on.
So I think the board is going towards is to maybe possibly bring it back to the 500, then they can have the 3.5 instead of 4 is a lot easier than 10.
I just want to just let my client know that that's kind of what we're leaning towards so that he can understand
Sure,
what he has to do.
if he wants to say something, he's more than welcome to come up, but we're going to take a vote on it.
Yeah.
But I think that's, the issue, as Mr. Wex has stated, is that, we don't have any precedent here, and people ask for larger times, and we tell them no all the time.
I understand.
Mhm.
I didn't mention, but on the hearing also is an accessory apartment, and it says for a new dwelling, but it's because the dwelling was reconstructed. It's not a new dwelling.
So he's owned it prior to the fire, and.
Yes.
Gotcha. You guys are with that?
Yeah.
You guys good with that? Yeah?
With the accessory apartment.
Sure. What do you tell him? You go to 500? Yeah. So,
We're okay.
okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we deny so much of the application, seeking to allow the garage at 757 square feet instead of 500. Deny so much of the application, that's got to, but however, if it's brought down to 500 square feet, we would grant a variance at 3.5 instead of 4, and grant remainder of the application, and also the two-family use only for a period of 3 years.
Sure. It's an accessory, not
Oh,
two-family.
accessory apartment. Yes.
Thank
My
you.
motion.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application Mostly granted and denied. Mostly granted.
Peaceful.
You
Next
guys,
application is
Thank you.
number
Have a good night.
Have a great night, guys.
513-21. Irma Guadron, permission to leave roof over patio 6 feet by 11.3 feet on side property line, not having a required setback of 2 feet, Residence B District, west side of Wilson Boulevard, number 866, 100 feet south of Lemon Street, Central Islip, New York. Mr. Guadron, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Messina, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jorge Guadron, Jorge Guadron, 866 Wilson Boulevard in Central Islip. Well, this is basically a 6 by 11 wooden capsivo to protect the barbecue grill from the elements.
Protect the what? I'm sorry, sir.
The barbecue grill from the elements, yes.
So it's just a small little roof over to protect the barbecue, you say?
That is correct.
We only have a,
Does it go right to the property line?
it seems to be.
It's
on the
about
property
6
line.
inches from the property line.
I'm sorry, sir?
6 inches from the property line.
Is it that white thing with the red?
That is correct, yes, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, there's a tremendous amount of vegetation on the other side. There's a barbecue back there?
Correct.
Is your client or your mother a good cook?
It is my wife.
Oh, your wife, I
Yeah.
apologize.
That's a dangerous
There she is.
question.
I'm gonna move on.
It's okay.
Did you any, okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application. Second.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Good to see you again, Mr. Guadron. God bless. Number 514-21, Michael and Christina Mongan. Permission to leave shed 8.1 feet by 24.2 feet, having a side yard of 2.3 feet instead of the required 4 feet, Residence A District, east side of Cranberry Drive, number 15, 609.53 feet north of Montauk Highway, Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Michael Collins, 298 Kansas Street, Lindenhurst, New York.
How are you tonight, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good. You have a shed 2.3 instead of 4. Seems de minimis. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we grant the application.
Give me a second. All in favor? Application granted, sir.
Thank you very much.
Next application, number 515-21, Robert J. DeMarco, permission to erect a two-story dwelling on a lot having a width of 93.53 feet instead of the required 100 feet throughout, Residence AA District, west side of Walnut Avenue, number 1290, 537.29 feet south of Union Street, Bohemia. Name and address for the record, please, folks.
Good evening, I'm Claire Greco, CKG Permit Service, offices at 9 Station Court in Bellport, here with Robert DeMarco, proud new homeowner of the property at 1290 Walnut Avenue in Bohemia.
Welcome.
How are you tonight?
The application before you this evening is for the construction of a brand-new house. You can see on the survey before you, we've got the proposed house sketched out very darkly. Our issue before the board today is that we're on a 93-foot wide piece of property where 100 foot is called for. There is presently a house that's been there, I think, since the 20s that's fully CO'd, and we're seeking to basically recycle the lot, demo the house. We have new health department approvals, and of course, we'll comply with all town requirements for the building permit of the new home.
So we have a house already on this property, here.
Correct.
You're just rebuilding it.
We're knocking the
Knocking
house
down.
down, demoing and basically recycling the lot, excavating the septic
And
system.
in 86,
resanitary.
there was a Board of Appeals approval to leave it on 93.53 feet also.
It's my understanding that in 86, they had sought to legalize it. I believe it was a family home. And I think for purposes at the time, they needed to obtain COs for the structure.
Okay, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Application granted.
Super. Thank you very much. Have a pleasant evening.
Next application number 516-21, Lauren April and Robert William Halverson Jr. Permission to install an in-ground pool leaving a rear yard of 13 feet instead of required 18 feet. And pool equipment leaving rear yard of 3 feet instead of required 6 feet. Residence Double A District, northeast corner of Wood Hollow Road, number 254, and New Street, Great River, New York. Name and address for the, please.
Hi, Robert Halverson Jr., 254 Wood Hollow Road, Great River, New York, 11739.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. Seeking in-ground pool 13 instead of 18 on the side yard. Pool equipment seems de minimis, we see them a lot. Is there any reason why you can't comply? It looks like you have a
Well,
decent area.
I guess the main thing when I bought this property, I have 3 little kids, it's a corner lot, so I'm really restricted on there's really no backyard. So what our game plan was to take sort of that front yard closer to Wood Hollow, and that would be like more of the play area, and we would have the pool closer to the property line on the east side. The reason for the relaxation is because if I was to follow the 18-foot setback, you wouldn't be able to see the pool from the kitchen window or the deck. It would almost go into the house a little bit, about 5-6 feet. That's really the main reason for the pool. I want to be able to see it from the window, the door. I don't want to have an area that's sort of hidden. And that's, again, it's sort of the issue with having a corner property. They're not really ideal for.
We like to see pools comply on one side, and it does on the one side. So everyone.
Yeah, I just have one question. Actually, this is for Mary or Deidre. I thought that the subject property was in a different color. When we look at this, how would we know? Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Is it usually yellow or something?
It's the dot for this one. It used to be in yellow.
Okay, I'm not up to the time.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wax, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor? Okay, application granted. Have a good night, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yellow was so yesterday.
Next application number 517-21, Oscar O. Alarcon. Permission to leave detached garage, 16 feet by 24 feet, having a side yard of 3 feet and rear yard of 3.3 feet instead of required 4 feet each, and 6-foot fence on second front property line, not having required setback of 10 feet, Residence B District, southeast corner of Madison Avenue, number 275 and Rutledge Streets, Brentwood, New York. Counselor, your name and address for the record, please, and welcome.
Good evening, members of the zoning board of appeals. My name is Carlos Garcia at 66 Second Avenue, Brentwood, New York. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
And I represent Oscar Alarcon.
How are you tonight, sir? How are you tonight? Good?
Yeah, okay.
Great. State your case.
On the first application is for the permit on the curb. Actually, the curb is all within the property limits of Mr. Alarcon.
So
there's
you
no need for
you talking
a-
about the detached garage? Side yards?
Yes.
Those are three and 3.3 instead of 4? That seems to be de minimis. You have the 6-foot fence on the property line now.
On the garage, it's point 0.7.
Yeah,
I mean,
let's move past the garage. Let's talk about the fence on the property line. The 6-foot high fence?
Yeah.
That's got to be 10 feet in or knocked down shorter.
Sure.
So the new code a couple of years back says a property 11,250 square feet does not have to have the fence in, but this property is 12,500 square feet. So a little bit too much. So the fence on the property line either has to be moved in 10 feet or dropped down to 4 feet. You could put 100-foot arborvitae's behind them, but you can't have a 6-foot fence at the property line. Sounds crazy, but we just here to uphold the code.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Can I point out that it appears from
Yeah.
the survey, the fence is slightly in the public right of way. I don't know, can we even grant it?
No, you can grant 0.
You can grant
Grant
zero,
zero, right?
Okay.
But we should caution that in the decision.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think my client has an explanation as to why it's higher than 4 feet.
Sure.
Okay.
Just name and address for the record, please.
My name is Oscar Alarcon, 275 Madison Avenue in Brentwood, New York.
How are you tonight, sir?
Little worried about it.
Don't be worried. Don't
Okay,
bite.
okay. A little nervous.
Don't be nervous.
My first time here.
That's all right.
Okay.
This is only wood.
When I bought the house, I bought it with wood fence.
Sure.
What I did is because the wood fence getting old and it started to deteriorate it. And what I did is I took them off and just replaced the vinyl fence because it lasts longer.
Sure.
But I put them in the same place where the other one was. And I have a granddaughter, two granddaughters, little girls and a little boy. Sometimes they go play outside, and that Rollins Avenue is a little dark at nighttime. And I'm afraid these guys, when they go over the outside, somebody can grab one of them and take it off. That's my worry, and that's what I want to leave the fence the way it is. The fence was here for years, and there, I never, what I did is just, years ago, I replaced it and put the vinyl on because it lasts longer.
Sure. Unfortunately, we hear this all the time. We're just trying to uphold the code, but what we can do is maybe reserve decision and talk about it and come a decision. Mr. Messina?
Mm-hmm.
You guys good with reserving? We'll talk about it?
Yeah, sure.
So I think, good.
No, go ahead.
I think possibly we're going to reserve decision. We're going to take a vote on it, see if anyone wants to be heard first, and we'll talk about it as a board, and then we'll render a decision at that point. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Coley, I'll take a motion. All in favor? So we have 62 days by law to render a decision. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. We'll get it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
guys.
sir.
Have a nice
Next
evening.
application number 518-21, Darrell Lapp, permission to erect addition to porch 4 feet by 7 feet and 1-story addition resulting in floor area ratio of 26.4% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A District, west side of Tower Muse, number 628, 301.65 feet south of Ocean View Drive, Oakdale. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, sir. Name is Todd O'Connell, doing business at 1200 Veterans Highway, Hop Hog, New York, architect for the Labs.
How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, and you?
Doing great, thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so we have a very de minimis request here. What we're looking
Does
to
that
do.
conclude your presentation, sir?
Yes, that's it. We're done. Very small porch on the front. We're expanding in a very small 9x4 addition up the back to get some storage on their garage. 26.9, something that the board has typically granted before, so we think it's a very de minimis request. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, sir. Have a great
Awesome.
night.
Have a great night.
Next application number 519-21, Bernard and Lisa R. Morant. Permission to erect a second-story addition, leaving a floor area ratio of 26.67% instead of permitted 25%. To establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-602, leaving 2 visible front entrances instead of 1 permitted. To leave above-ground pool having a side yard of 5 feet instead of the required 10 feet. And driveway having side yard of 3.5 instead of required 4 feet. Residence B District, northwest corner of Poplar Street, number 19, and Prospect Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Thomas Bloor, the architect for the project, 60 Carlton Avenue, Suite 202, Islip Terrace, New York.
How are you tonight?
Good. So the intent of this application, as stated, is to construct a new second-story addition, as well as to establish the accessory apartment, leaving 2 visible front entrances, leave an above-ground pool, leave an existing driveway. The second floor is pretty minimal in the FAR. We're requesting an FAR of 26.67 instead of the permitted 25%. As far as the apartment, the request is, it's a first-story apartment, small studio apartment, 398 square feet. There's an existing driveway in the northeast corner. It has been approved by the engineering division. We are requesting a side yard setback of 3.5 feet instead of the required 4 feet, And I would like to amend the call of the hearing to request a side yard of 0 feet for a very small portion of that driveway instead of the required 4 feet. I have an updated property survey. Unfortunately, the surveyor had a discrepancy in the survey, drew it wrong. Engineering went out with the new survey, looked at the driveway in the current position, and engineering approved it for the dimensions and the size. And if you allow me, I can hand up the revised survey. It's only a very small portion, 37 square feet of the driveway that's actually closer to the property line.
Yeah, if we can have that for the file. So you'd like to amend the call to add driveway having side yard of 0.0 feet instead of required 4 feet?
Correct. My next topic is going to be some photographs.
Just to be clear, before we leave that one, that wasn't advertised, was it?
It was advertised for a setback for relaxation. I'm amending the call on the actual setback.
How much was it advertised for, and what are you seeking?
3.5 instead of 4, and I'm seeking 0 instead of 4.
I think this gives adequate public notice.
I believe the public notice had an advertisement for a setback to a driveway. My understanding was as long as it's not a change in the variance sought, it can be amended at the hearing. But I could be wrong. Furthermore, which I just handed in some photographs of that, we're requesting to maintain the 2 visible front entrances. The owner has owned the home approximately 20 years, stated when he purchased the home, it always had the 2 doors. I guess I'm a little confused at the code. I understand you can't have 2 doors facing the street. What we have here is 1 door is facing south, to get my bearing correctly, and the other door is facing east. Those 2 photographs are a great depiction of what it looks like. Sure, at a certain angle, you could see the 2 doors, but a dead-on shot on the house, you really don't see the second door.
I think the code says visible.
If it says visible,
Doesn't
then,
say if you look at it, I mean, I see it's not earth shaking.
Right.
I'm just saying what the code says, it's up to the board. And I don't know if the code contemplates, well, if you look at it from this angle, but not this angle, where you close one eye.
right, understood. I always thought my understanding was the code, so you don't drive around the neighborhood and look at houses with 2 doors on them, 2 doors on them, 2 doors on them, you know. And then finally is the side yard setback of 5 feet instead of the required 10 feet to an existing above-ground pool.
So pool's been up for a while?
Pool's been up for a while. I had a conversation with the client because I felt I would have the most resistance on that item. He indicated to me he wants to use the pool for the rest of the summer. So if there's a lot of pushback from the board, he's actually going to be taking it down, you know, in the summer in a few months, probably before he even ends up getting building permits at this point.
We'd have to take a vote on this, but a lot of times we talk about life of the pool with above-ground pools.
Mhm.
So if there should be something to be changed on the pool, liner, panels, whatever, it has to comply.
I would absolutely agree with that.
All right, we'll have to take a vote on that, but I'm just giving you what we normally do. Are you good with the amendment, Ben?
No.
No? So what do you want to do?
You can have what's advertised, you can deny it, I don't care. If we stood here 2 weeks ago and we said we can't do something because it wasn't advertised, then that's exactly what's happening here now, so. We have to be consistent.
Sure.
I agree with Vice Chairman. We're discussing this with our Chairman, Vice, that it wasn't advertised, and that's problematic. I don't know how we're fair to the public. If the public, I don't know, maybe the neighbors would have said at 0, we'd come in and it's a fair. They don't know. That's my concern also.
We can't advertise it at, what is it, 3.5, and then grant it 0. It's not fair to the neighbors who didn't know what we were listening to.
If you advertised at 0 and wanted 3.5, we'd give you that.
All day.
It does seem to be just a small de minimis portion of it, so maybe you keep it at 3.5?
I'd be willing to
Or
do
you
that.
can come back.
Cut it over.
You can come back later, your choice.
I'd actually come back then, because you know what, it was the surveyor's mistake. Everyone got frustrated at the surveyor for this. I'm standing there in the field, like, there's no way that thing's
And you're
3.5.
standing here now.
You know, and I'm standing here now, and I'll be the one to come back.
Send Simmons back.
Yeah, it's always nice. Yeah, I'd honestly rather come back, because, you know, he's got fences and gates there, and it was back and forth with engineering to get engineering to approve it. At the end of the day, engineering approved it for the 18 by 38 or 36, I think it has to be. You know, and the homeowner's gonna cry if I tell him you gotta cut 3.5 feet back. And not only that, if we cut that little piece, now you actually have to move all the gates over to comply with the accessory apartment requirement of having.
How is the surveyor off 3.5 feet?
If you look at the survey in the file, see how it tapers up for that little piece? He missed that. He drew it straight.
Right. Oh, they're over.
He's a good surveyor. I use him all the time, but it's made a
Everybody
mistake.
makes mistakes.
The CAD line just went.
So,
You'd like to take an adjournment?
no, why don't, let me suggest this for the board's consideration. Why don't we grant the application, deny that portion with respect to, the 0 instead of 4, but grant leave to rehear that. So
After
that
it's
he doesn't have to
re-advertised.
ask for the rehearing. Let him come back
I love
when he
it.
has the majority.
I'm fine with that. You guys say?
Yeah, grant everything but that and give them a chance.
Everything but the.
And specifically give him a rehearing to be heard on 0 instead of 4.
Right, and the covenant and restriction on the pool, that if liner needs to be
Right.
replaced.
Yeah,
Like
that's
for the
cool.
pool.
Yeah. Good.
Excellent.
Does anyone wish, I'm going to give you that motion because you. know
Okay,
we don't. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny that portion of the application which seeks a driveway having a side yard of 3.5, instead of 4 feet. And grant and with leave for the applicant to renew at 0 feet, or to be reheard rather at 0 feet instead of the required 4 feet, and then grant the balance of the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Have a good night.
Next application, Mr. Chairman, number 520-21. Thomas and Michaela Riviello. Permission to install in-ground pool, leaving side and rear yards of 4 feet instead of required approximate 10 feet each. Residence B District, west side of Nancy Drive, number 16, approximately 45 feet southeast of Benson Avenue, Sayville. Ma'am, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, good evening. Christina Bravin, Morano Expediting. Blanking out, sorry. 23 Edward Street, Bethpage, New York. Agent for the applicant, Thomas and Michaela Ravello.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Good. We'd like to begin by requesting an amendment to the application. And so we'd like to reduce the request of 4 feet side yard and rear yard to 7 feet side yard and rear yard setback.
That we can do.
Make a motion to amend the application to state installing ground pool leaving side and rear yards of 7 feet instead of required 10 feet.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you. So the request is to install a 12-foot by 26-foot in-ground pool holding a rear yard and side yard setback of 7 feet instead of the required 10 feet. So this is the smallest in-ground pool that is available to them. As you can probably see from the survey or the overhead view, the house is set back quite far into the rear yard, leaves them very little room. They're going to be removing the existing raised deck that connects to the sunroom. And in order for them to install the stairs and landing to code, it leaves them with very little room for when they step out and reach grade. With the 7-foot proposal, we're giving them approximately 5 feet of space between the pool and about 10 feet from the house. So it meets the requirement for setback from the house. And like I said, safety reasons for when they step down from the stairs, they don't just fall into the pool.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any questions? Mr. Salvin, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application is granted as amended.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next application was adjourned previously from July 27th, 2021. Number 465-21, My Short Sale Properties, Inc. Permission to lease 2-story addition having a side yard of 10.9 feet instead of the required 14 feet, and leave second-story addition while having floor area ratio of 33% instead of permitted 25%, and to leave a shed on the side property line not having required setback of 2 feet, Residence B District, south side of Elroy Avenue, number 104, 220 feet west of St. Charles Street, Holbrook. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Certainly good to be back in person for those Zoom hearings. But we're here before you tonight seeking relief for,
Sir?
yeah.
Just your name. Just
Oh, I'm
correct.
sorry. My name is Kevin Guilfoyle for the applicant, offices at 86 Center Street, Ronkonkoma, New York. Yes, Guil, F as in Frank, Oyle. Thank you. Okay. We're here before you tonight seeking 3 reliefs. The first is most significant is the FAR 33%. I submitted via email to Mary and Deidre some precedents that I came across through doing some research. I don't know if the board had a chance to look at them, but I'll be more than happy to submit them now, along with copies of the certificates of compliance for those precedents.
If I may inquire, Mr. Chairman, while they're being handed up, are the precedents within a 500-foot radius?
Yes.
All of them?
No. Some of them are without, extended past the 500-foot radius.
Could you
But
tell us which ones are?
okay, 143 St. Charles is probably not even an eighth of a mile away. Nina Street is,
Wait, I'm sorry. 143 St. Charles is a 500-foot. Okay. What was the second one? I'm sorry.
Nina Street, I think.
33, the 143 St. Charles had a ZBA grant back in 1993 that granted a 28.9% FAR. When I initially looked at that property after driving around, I looked at it and I said, it had to be bigger than that. And after I looked at the certificate of compliance, after the, in 93, after the ZBA was granted, the additions were in 1994, a 269 square foot addition, then a 201 square foot addition, and then a 228 square foot addition.
Mr. Guilfoyle, I'm sorry, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The ZBA grant was 28.9.
28.9.
Hang on. The next question is there a subsequent ZBA grant?
No, there's not, but there is a certificate of compliance issued for all 3 of those additions.
Can I finish my question?
I'm sorry.
Okay. So there is no ZBA grant?
No.
Okay, then you say there's a certificate of compliance. When was that granted, and for what was it granted for? Was it granted at 35.8?
No, it was granted in 93 by 28.9%.
Okay, so I don't see how you could use 143 St. Charles as a precedent. It was granted at 28.9.
Okay, but what I'm saying is if the certificates of compliance that were issued after that grant created a dwelling that was at 35.8%, and it, doesn't that speak to the nature and character of the neighborhood?
No. If you told us there were 30 of 25 homes in the 500-foot radius that were 35.8, that would speak to the nature.
Well, that would be
Wait,
at that rate, it would be super conformity, yes.
Sir, we both can't speak.
I'm sorry.
So you gave us one house that we didn't grant. Somehow it grew,
Mhm.
and it probably grew without benefit of permit after we granted 28.9. So I don't see how any stretch that's precedent.
How could a certificate of compliance be granted by the town of Islip Building Department?
Let's assume, Mr. Guilfoyle, that you're correct, okay? So that's one. What else do you have?
We have Nina Street, 199 Nina Street, in the ZBA of 1999, granted a 33.4% FAR.
Is that within 500 square feet or 500 feet?
No, I would say it's outside the 500 square feet.
By a foot, by 100 feet, by a mile?
It's not far. I live.
Not far. It's probably within a quarter of a mile.
Oh, quarter of a mile. That's
Less than that. I didn't specifically look at my Google area.
okay.
Deirdre from planning, what's your take on this? What's some precedent that you have researched?
There's no precedent for 500 feet. I did try to find all the precedent that's given me. They're all well over 500 feet from the property. One Nina Street, I just measured, seems to be about 4,000 feet away. 117 First Street is over 1,000 feet away, but nothing was granted. The other ones are also, nothing's granted at the yards that are stated, and they're all over 3,000 feet.
Can you, I'm sorry.
That's within 500 feet, but it was granted at 28 feet.
Do we have any idea of how it came to be at its current size and CFC?
It's still stated at 28.8%, through ZBA.
So, but yeah, but what I'm saying is that CFC, how did that come about?
I don't see it stated in FAR at the time.
No, but it added additions. And that's what could have happened, is perhaps those additions were just realized.
No, that's not.
He's holding $100.
How we get there, get there? Give me 30, I can get some. Give me 30, I can get some.
Ms. Ryan, could you show me on the aerial where this property is and where the shed is specifically? Right?
Yes.
You can't even see it, right? Okay, thank you.
You got it? Okay, cool. Does anyone wish to be heard on this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
A motion to reserve decision.
All in favor?
Aye.
In reserve, we're going to look at some of those cases that you gave us, look at it as best as we can and as quick as we can. Obviously, you know we have 62 days by law, but we'll do the best we can.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
Members of the board.
Our next application is number 521-21, Edmund D. and Lisa Salpietro. Permission to leave roof over patio, having floor area ratio of 31.8% instead of permitted 25%. Residence B 278, Cluster District, south side of Gainsborough Road, number 165, 631.89 feet west of Berkshire Road, Holbrook, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Edwin Salpietro, 165 Gainsborough Road, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
How are you tonight?
Good, sir. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks. So you have a roofed over patio that throws you up over 30%, well, 25% FAR, but we see up to 30 or 31.8.
Yes, sir.
Have you done any research for a precedent, or you want me to ask?
No, I haven't.
Do we have any precedent for above?
I did actually, I'm sorry, President, that means like someone else who has that thing.
Yeah.
88 Flint Ridge Road is 500 feet. If you cross over this way, it's over, it's 1,000 feet if you go around the block.
500 feet as the crow flies.
All right, yeah.
So you didn't find anything, are you looking right now?
They did actually the same thing I did, that's why.
It did show when I looked, it's within 500 feet, but it was granted at 30.9% as long as the covered patio not being closed.
So this is at 31.8, and it's not an enclosed patio?
No, it's all open. You could see.
Never being closed?
I have a picture on my phone, I mean, I apologize, I thought I had it in this.
If we could write that it's an open patio and not living space.
Well, and we'll condition.
Yeah, condition. All right, so never to be enclosed.
Never being closed, absolutely not.
It is pretty. by the way.
What's that?
It is pretty. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the application on the condition that the patio is never to be enclosed.
Second.
All fair?
Thank you, be safe.
Great night.
Ooh, I want you to read that one.
I'm half Polish, you
Yes,
know,
he's-
Mr.
he reads Polish better than Italian.
Polish better than English, apparently. Next application, number 522-21. John and Patricia A. Waskiewicz permission to leave in-ground pool with water feature having side yard of 6 feet instead of required 10 feet. Pool patio having front yard of 18 feet instead of required 25 feet. Air conditioning unit not having the required 4 feet behind front line of the dwelling. Residence B, 278 Cluster District, northeast corner of Burley Drive, number 57, and Sunny Glen Way. Holbrook, name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Deborah Yelvington, that's Yelvington of Dynamic Permits, agent and expediter for the owner.
How close did I come
Yeah, could you-
to getting your name right?
Could you
sir?
pronounce the owner's name?
See? Wait, let him
Was-
pronounce it. Let him pronounce it.
Waskowitz.
Pretty close.
I don't think he did
Very
that well.
close.
No, I would've said.
But Vinny always reminds us he's half Polish.
How are you tonight?
Doing great, thank you.
Doing great, thanks.
Did better than the English part of
That's
the
similar to
application.
Jay's, that's right.
That's actually how it's supposed to be spelled.
Really?
You don't spell your name that way?
My father went into the service and they changed it and he never corrected
No, that's
it.
wild.
The Polish
Longer than
army?
It actually is.
All right, so you want to state your case, or you want me to just?
I will, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the board. Little background first on this property for Mr. and Mrs. Watzkowitz have owned this property since 2003. It's closing in on 20 years quickly. John and Patricia have 3 daughters of school age, and they're very involved in their community. In the summer of 2020, they installed an in-ground pool. Like many typical homeowners of Long Island, they were stuck in with the quarantine and needed some extra curricular activity. However, the needs of their family are not quite as typical, and I'll expound a little bit on that. Our main request for relief comes about for closing out that pool permit. As you can see by the survey of the, after the construction, I've highlighted, enlarged it here. So the pool is more than the required 10 feet off the property line. It's like 11 and a half. There's landscape screening around it at all the adjacent property lines. The in-ground pool, the water feature that was added at the time, well, let me hold up first this Google Earth photograph as well that shows the character of the neighborhood. Almost 50% of the other homeowners have pools as well. And many of them are closer to the property line. So we feel we're in keeping with the character of the neighborhood.
So you just, the 6 instead of 10 is just the water feature?
The water feature, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. I'm not trying to stop you from, I don't believe that's much of an issue in my mind.
Okay, great.
Deirdre, any objection planning from that? So if you want to.
Thank you. And the patio area that's from the pool, you can see where I highlighted here, it's less than 165 square feet that crosses past the front of the house. Because of living on that corner property, they have less usable space there. So they're encroaching on that Burley Drive side. And again, their AC unit, when installing that, of course, thinking that the front of the house was actually at the Sunny Glen Way, and they stuck it here encroaching as well into that second front yard, not behind the edge of the house on that side.
Sure. Deirdre from planning, any objection to the other two?
Can I submit a photograph too, because I did some extra highlighting?
Jay's coming down to.
Here he comes, Jay Waskowitz.
The screening and landscaping around the property is quite lovely with the pool area that's all going to grow up and have a nice extra buffer. I have enlarged here with John Waskowitz's foot on the tape measure as we were measuring, because the waterfall feature in those rocks were stipulated at 6 feet and change. The water itself is actually back at the pool at about 12 feet. And you can see around this area, it's just lovely. It's screened well from the neighbors, won't create any hindrance to the neighbors or any detriment to the neighborhood. Thank you.
You hand that to Mr. Waskowitz.
Waskowitz.
No, they dropped the K.
Did you say that?
He's got a very
Oh.
similar spelling of my
Oh,
grandfather.
okay.
Really?
Not a Z, it's 2 S's.
The Army dropped the K.
And my
You
father
guys good?
and it's
Yeah.
John.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this? Oh, you have more? I'm sorry.
Well, the side photos, whether or not you could see them or need to see that, again, the AC unit that's facing Burley Drive there, you can see it set back. It's behind a fence.
I
And
think you've done
We
such.
are
all
well-
along
we are
there.
well ahead of
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay.
You can hand it up if you'd like to, though, for the record.
If you don't need it, we don't need to give it. However, I will submit,
We will note your thoroughness for the record.
And the Waskowitz's middle daughter has been diagnosed with
You don't
a,
need, that's
no,
okay.
you don't need that, the water feature, the pool,
We're all
okay.
good.
You're good.
We're good.
And how about 4 affidavits from
If you keep
adjacent
going,
property
you can
owners?
Snatch victory from, defeat from the jaws of victory.
Just keep going.
We've got them in the file. You emailed them to the office this afternoon, so we have them in
We
the
have
file already. Thank
They
you.
happened to the Giants. They
Does-
fumbled at the 1 yard line.
We appreciate your kindness there. Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I will take this.
Let's grant the application.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Next application, number 523-21, Dominic S. and Kimberly M. Giovanniello. Giovanniello.
See what I'm saying? He's
I'm just
Italian.
having a tough night.
Yeah, really. You did better
Permission
with
to
the
install in-ground pool leaving second front yard of 10 feet instead of the required arterial highway setback of 40 feet. Residence A District, southwest corner of Richwood Lane, number 2, and Townland Road, Hopog, New York. Welcome. Name and address for the record,
Kimberly
please.
Jovaniello to Richwood Lane.
You got to speak into the microphone. We have terrible acoustics.
Kimberly Jovaniello to Richwood Lane, Hopog, New York.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Dominic Jovaniello, 2 Richwood Lane, Hopog, New York.
Great. How are you guys?
Good, how are you?
Seeking permission to install an in-ground pool, second front yard of 10 feet and required arterial setback of 40 feet. I have to ask Mary or Deirdre to explain this.
I can explain it if you want me to.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
The setback from the property line is 27 feet, but apparently town line's an arterial highway, so it's 40 feet from, sorry. The setback from the property line is 27 feet, but from town line road, it has to be 40 feet. And the permit denial had it written this way, so that's the language that we copied on the variance application because my husband wanted it written that way.
Okay.
And you pick your battles sometimes.
Ms. Ryan?
So really, the setback is 27 feet. I mean, that was required, and we're asking to have it to 10.
Why would it have to be set back 40? Because of the town line road?
Right.
Yes, 40 feet from town line road.
So do we have any objection from planning for this or?
No objections, it's an in-ground pool, so it's not going to.
Never to be enclosed.
Can't live in it?
No pool house.
No objection? You guys good?
Yeah.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Who's hot on? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second. All in favor? Application granted.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Next application is number 524-21, 2280 Union Boulevard LLC. Permission to allow outdoor overnight parking of registered trucks and unattached box trailers, not having required 200 feet setback to residential use pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-340.1 C and P, Industrial 1 District, south side of Union Boulevard, number 2280, 329.8 feet west of Saxon Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Counselor, your name and address for the record, please.
Tara Visconti, Visconti, Bazell Blend Visconti, 535 Broad Hollow Road, Suite B4, Melville, New York, 11747, for the applicant, owner 2280 Union Boulevard LLC.
How are you tonight?
Good, thanks. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The applicant is seeking permission to allow the overnight outdoor parking of 6 registered trucks with 2 box trailers, and they will be in designated spaces in the rear of the property. This has already been designated by the site plan approval conditions.
But is it 6 trucks and 2 box trailers?
Yeah,
or-
yep,
So it's 8
yes.
all told?
Yeah, 6 trucks and only 2 trailers will ever be used at one time or stored at one time.
But it's 6 and 2?
Yes.
Thank you.
And there will be screened and fencing, there will be screened fencing in the rear to screen them from view. That's also in accordance with the planning board permit conditions. And it's the property, the rear of the property borders a residential zone triple D, which is what brings us here tonight. This
Is
property.
there an actual residence there?
No, that's the other rub to this. It is zone residential, which is why we're here, but it's supposedly just a condo maintenance facility. and some county-owned land. So it's not even really residential.
There's no real residential use that's being affected.
Right, right.
Are the
It's,
closest residents all the way to the left of the screen that we're looking at?
yeah, there are condos over there.
Oh, those are condos.
Yeah, I think it's across the street.
That's to the right.
That's
To the right.
parking. It's across Union Boulevard where the condos are.
And the subject property is, I need the yellow line.
Yep. Yeah, it's that one in the middle. Yeah, that long building. That's
And
the
trucks
existing
will
building.
be kept
In the back there, yeah. I actually highlighted the site plan to make it easy for you guys if you'd like me to hand that up. I don't know
Yeah, please.
where your gentleman is, but I actually did that because I knew it would be easier if you could see
He's trying to
exactly.
figure out
what
how
it
to
would be.
spell his last name.
Does the town code disallow what you want and you're seeking a variance?
They disallow them being parked within 200 feet of a residential zone,
And why do they do that?
which is what, I do not know why they do that. But that's why Mr. Messina pointed out that there's not any real residences there. It's zoned this, but there aren't condos there. It's a condo maintenance facility. But it's still zoned DDD, so we had to come here because we are parking within 200 feet of that. It borders the rear of that.
I'm sorry if I may, Mr. Chairman. The buildings that we see, could you move the cursor right there? Thank you, Deidre. Those are condos or condo maintenance facilities?
No, the condo maintenance facility is to the south, right there.
Okay, so if you move the cursor again, those are condos.
Where's the cursor?
You see it?
Okay, so that is to the east. That is parking for the adjacent condos. So yes, those would be condos and a parking lot.
So those are condos. How many feet are they? They don't look like they're more than 200. How many feet are they from where the trailers are going to be parked?
They are also, I believe, less than 200 feet too.
Looks like it's just across that.
It's
driveway.
across the parking lot. I think there's a paper street there too.
Now, they're not allowed to keep them there overnight under the current status?
They're not allowed to keep them parked within 200 feet overnight. You
So
store
they
them
were
there.
Theoretically parked at the other north end of the property before.
Yes, and also they don't, the prior approvals don't want them there because they want them to be screened from view. So the rear is the best place to do that, along with the landscaping that they're required to do.
So planning board is requiring landscaping, buffering,
Landscaping, buffering, blacktopping, new
Yes.
facade,
and they sent you here because of the 200.
refuse, yeah,
But they approved this plan.
they approved this plan.
Okay.
The one that you guys have in your hands, yeah.
If I can just ask Will, if I may, Mr. Chairman, or Vinnie.
Will, he's smarter.
Will, when that happens, we see this often, is that planning board saying, if you do all this, we'll grant it, but you have to go to the ZBA, but we'll grant it? Is it kind of their imprimatur?
That's a good word.
Yeah. just-
They're.
Yeah, is your name Will?
Yeah, no, it's not.
I
Let's
mean,
see,
is
let's
that
see how you guys do.
board saying it's
So
okay with us?
here's what I'd say about that. And Mr. Wex, I've been before you on that side of the podium.
Did I give you a hard time?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
But the fact was that, if that feature was not at least palatable to the planning, but why would they even bother going through the whole process and sending you here?
Okay.
If they could, would they have granted it? I imagine they would have, but you can't speculate like that. But the fact is, if it had no merit whatsoever, I don't know why they would go through that whole process and then send you here. It makes
Okay,
no sense.
thank you. Mary shaking her head, yes.
And the planning board
Wait,
is
she
also
agrees with me?
more accustomed to modifying these type of uses to make them more compatible with possibly adjacent
Land use.
land uses.
Thank you.
And I'm assuming here, Deirdre, planning has no objection.
Okay.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Have a great night.
night, Mr. Scott.
Thank you. You all
Good to
as
see you
well.
again.
Yes, let's hope so.
Stay healthy.
I kind of liked the Zooms, but it is nice to be
No.
here in
Oh,
person.
I hate this.
Zoom is dead.
Zoom, oh, I like Zoom because, you know, I could wear this on top and maybe, some sweatpants on the bottom and no one would be the wiser. Feed my cat while I was doing the Zoom. But anyway, it was nice to see
have a
everyone
great
this
night.
evening.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Next application, number 525-21, Robert and Suzanne Gardos. Permission to erect an elevated addition with stairs and walk-to-roof deck, leaving rear yard of 10 feet instead of the required 25 feet. Roof shed having a front yard 34.5 feet instead of the required 60 feet. And second front yard of 16.6 feet instead of required 20 feet to leave first floor decking with stairs having second front yard of 6.5 feet and 12.6 feet instead of the required 15 feet each. Residence BAA District Southeast corner of Clipper Roadway and Philokalia Walk, 25-foot right-of-way, Cornelis Estates. Mr. Graham, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, 1981 Union Boulevard, Bay Shore, New York. I'd like to start out the application. I'm pretty sure we can delete 90% of this. From after permission to erect elevated addition with stairs and walk to roof deck, leaving rear yard of 10 feet instead of 25. Everything after that was granted a permit in 2013. It's permit number 125012. I believe it may have been in the call because it could still have an open permit at this point. But I do have a copy of the permit with all those items on it, the shed, the decks, the stairs, everything.
So they don't need zoning relief for that portion?
I don't believe so, and it was granted in 2013 without any zoning relief.
So you're amending the call, right?
Should I amend the call, Mary?
Well, that's up to you.
Well, did you say it was granted by this board variances and then obtained a building permit?
No, I think he's saying that he was granted a permit.
I did appear before this board in 2013 for a roof deck, but not for those items, but a permit was issued.
But do you run the risk if you strike it from the call and then building says, oh, no, we have an issue?
I agree with you, but I'm also stating that building issued a permit and I have it in my hands, so
Well,
it's very weird.
You got your choice.
When was the permit issued?
You go with the permit or you go with the
2013.
hearing.
Was it expired?
It could be if the owner, I know it was built, but perhaps the owner didn't close out the permit.
Does he have a CL for this stuff? Or CFC?
It must not be on the CO, that's why it was in the
But it's
call.
already built?
It was built with a permit. Yeah.
I think
Okay.
You want to leave it in the call then?
Dan Burgos wrote your denial?
Yes.
Well, we have to go with the denial unless you choose to.
I'll leave it in the
Let's go.
call then.
Giddy up.
Okay, so I really thought I was in front of you tonight to talk about a easterly addition to this property. So this lot is in the heart of Cornell Estates, about a block from Ocean Beach. It's a rather large lot. The lot coverage here is only 27%. We're seeking a rear addition, and it's considered a rear addition because in 13, we got to choose what was a front yard, what was a side yard, what was a rear yard. So kind of shot myself in the foot when we went for the roof deck, but the whole neighborhood, for instance, if one block away within 500 feet, we're in Ocean Beach, the nature and character of that is 14-foot front yards, 8-foot side and rear. So there's about 55 homes in this area, maybe 20 of them are in Ocean Beach with those type of setbacks. But more importantly, right across the street, I have a copy of a survey showing a 9.6 rear yard and also a 5.9 side yard. I can hand that out. Also, across the street, because there's two homes, and I'm talking about June Walk or Palacoa Walk, which is basically a 4-foot wide boardwalk. That house also has a 10-foot rear yard and a 7-foot side. And then to talk a little bit more about the nature and character of Cornell, our neighbor directly to the east, Susan Abrams, was granted 11.4 front yard instead of 25, a very significant relaxation. And that existing house is at 5.2 front yard setback.
Can I inquire?
Sure.
Mr. Graham, maybe just for us, you know this piece of property better than we do, obviously. If you could just take us through each variance request, like I'm looking at that would be the easterly portion at 10 instead of 25.
Yeah, and that's primarily why I'm here. The others, we had a building permit for, but that, we're looking to do a master bedroom addition.
Okay. My question is, let's start off, what type of precedent do you have in its substantial relaxation? So.
I was not able to find a rear yard precedent, but I also wanted to point out to the board, this is a corner lot. Back when we did the roof deck, you could basically choose what is a front yard, and we had chosen the other. The front door does face June Walk, and when this addition was designed, we assumed we were going for I kept it at 10 feet thinking it was a side yard. It wasn't only until the plans were done and applied for, we were advised that it's not a side yard, it's actually a rear yard.
But, okay,
So yes, there's no precedent for that.
so then is there extra room if there's two front yards? I think that's what you're saying, there are two front yards. So you want to treat the 10 instead of 25 as the rear?
I don't have a choice anymore because it's in 2013 that was considered a rear. We got to choose.
Oh, that was shooting yourself in the foot?
Yes.
So here's my question. I understand the size of properties in Ocean Beach, but that's a different municipality. So
But
I just can't use that as nature and character. It's like using Nassau and Suffolk County, but people.
Well, it's within 500 feet.
Yeah, but that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer if you have a different municipality.
It is an interesting question. It goes to nature and character, but. You know.
But the village of Ocean Beach is a village, and they
Right.
said,
Well,
will allow. But let me just, it's not as though you said, I have 23 instead of 25, or 22, it's 10. It's, what is it, back of the envelope, a 65%
yeah. And that's,
reduction?
you're absolutely right. And that's why I foiled the two houses directly across the street. And they exist today with 9.6 rear yard and a 10-foot rear yard, 7-foot side yards. I just handed up one survey. I can give you another. This is directly across the street, two houses.
Is that by grant of the zoning?
They weren't granted by zoning, but they have COs.
Across Philokalia,
Yeah, which is also known as June Walk.
so to the north.
So.
Is that
Yeah,
legacy?
those two. Now, to even go further, if you look directly east of our property, that house with the large pool, that house has a 5.2 front yard, and it was granted 11.4 front yard relief.
Let me just ask you, the two homes that have, what, 9.6?
Rear, 5.9 side.
And what was the second one?
10,
And 10 foot.
they didn't appear in front of the board. I have no idea why,
Well,
but they
it's-
do have a CO.
I'll take a guess. They're both corner lots, so they
Similar
all,
to what we are.
they also could have benefited from being built at a time when you can decide which front yard you want to use.
I
as
agree
your
with you,
front.
Mary, but then if you take that theory, then they would have a rear yard of 7 in this case, so even less than what I'm asking for. So it would only help my case further. And looking at the map, the property directly to the east with the large swimming pool that the arrow's on, that was granted 11.4 front yard relief instead of 25. A very significant reduction like I'm asking for tonight. And if you go further up.
Hang on one second. There, where they were granted 11 instead of 25.
Yes.
Are there other relaxations required on the side or back?
No, not that I'm aware of. It looks to be the largest lot in the entire neighborhood. but-
Is your client's property, does that require variances anywhere else other than the 10 by 25?
Well, that goes back to why I was issued a building permit in 2013. I don't need any other relaxations. So that's
But
a
you would deny
very,
one now, and that's how you got here, right?
I just, also, I don't know how you could get a building permit without zoning relief.
Well, I mean, maybe he was eligible
yeah,
then.
but back in
even then.
13, I don't think you needed the
That's what
60-foot
happens with
relaxation for a shed. That came into play afterwards.
So-
No. So my question to you is that you're stating that you got the building permit, it was never closed?
It was built and probably may still have an open building permit. Yeah.
Okay, so never, so.
It was never
we're-
renewed.
But
Never
that's
renewed or
just a
closed
matter
or
of
whatever. Okay.
finishing the
So, Mr.
paperwork and closing it out.
I'm sorry, Mr. Graham, we have a letter from your client's neighbor to the east.
Yes.
And while she doesn't object to any of the existing structures
That's
or
to
the
the west,
one-story
yes.
additions, she says she objects to another set of stairs and walkway leading to the existing roof deck. And she cites
We're gonna have that then.
what are very typical privacy concerns for those types of decks that are that close to another structure. Can you tell me why we should even consider, in light of this, the new set of stairs and walkway leading to the roof deck?
The roof deck exists.
Yeah, but they-
The
so
stairs
there's-
and
so there's a way to
walkway,
get there, right?
the stairs and walkway could be built without being in front of the zoning board. They're not within, they do meet the 25-foot setback.
You know,
But if
the call of the
limit-
meeting indicates otherwise.
No, the stairs the call of the meeting refers to the ones with the building permit. And I think if you'd like to take a look at that, I can clarify that as well.
I think we need clarification on what's going on.
No, I don't think, well, okay. If-
Well,
if-
Let
The
me
per-
back up a minute.
Wait, hang on, maybe, Ms. Ryan, do you know anything? Is there an open permit right now?
I'm a little confused on that too, because there are approvals, but they do say, that the zoning section does say that it's approved, but it does say sheds and new decking require ZBA and CUC if approved.
Okay.
So there are talks about requiring a ZBA, but for some reason it's also
Okay.
kind of approved, so I'm not sure.
Also, if I can inquire, Deidre, a building permit must expire. Is it 1 year, 2 year? What is the expiration date?
I'm not too sure. You can extend the permit.
Right, but I don't.
Yeah, I
know.
believe it's up to 4
3
years.
though, right? It ends after 3 years. So even if they extend it, at best case, it was 2017.
The stairs
4
the
years.
neighbor is referring to, Mr. Messina, is the stairs to the roof deck that is proposed. There is an existing roof deck with stairs on the opposite side of the house. The owner wanted to be able to access it from his master bedroom in the morning. But if the board is that concerned with those extra stairs, I'd be happy to withdraw that portion or eliminate those stairs.
Thank you.
Good question. How did you get here? Why did you come? Did you?
Really for that 10-foot rear yard, which is only a small portion of the addition. The owner wanted a master suite. I designed it thinking it was a side yard. When I got in front of zoning, it said no, and 13, it was deemed a front yard. So it's a corner lot, 2 front yards, 2 rear yards.
And at which point, somebody in zoning looked at the survey, looked at the approval, and said, all this stuff needs ZBA approval, even though it was already present.
Yes.
Mr. Graham, was there, I'm thinking, and I'm just completely assuming this whole scenario here, but I'm thinking maybe whether it was you or someone else that helped the client out with these permits that you're showing, and we have some sort of half approval, but needing some zoning board approval in the system that Deirdre just read to us. Possibly, did they believe that it was done, and then they never did anything more from it, and now they're back here?
Well,
Like, there's got to be some more to this story.
Well, I'm sure it was built and then it was never closed out.
Okay.
It was built with the benefit of a permit. And I think the building department knows that probably only 60% of people get their COs. And
Is that
Yeah.
the number, only 60%?
it's some crazy number like that, yes.
So Deirdre, from planning, any objection from planning with the I guess you'd call it the bulk of the application that Mr. Graham was stating was already done with the building permit back in 2013.
Now with the bulk of the application, it does seem like the only precedent I was able to find was for the shed having front yard of 29 and front yard of 7 instead of 16. So other than that, everything does seem more de minimis.
Okay. And what about with the 10 feet rear yard? Listening to what Mr. Graham has proposed in front of us of the scenario that happened with the time when he was able to choose a rear and a front yard, and on his word, shot him in the foot for this application now. Any objection with planning for that?
It's 1075 and it's a good size lot.
So no objection.
No objection to it. 'Cause
No objection,
10
okay.
there's so much more room on the property that it could have put an addition on.
And we do have some precedent, not by this board, but possibly legacy, if you want to call that, across the street, that Mr. Graham was.
Yeah, there's no grant.
I'm trying, if I may, I'm just trying, I think you're speaking, I don't know if you're on the same.
We need to sort this out.
Yeah, this is too
Mr.
cloudy.
Wexler.
Yeah, I can't vote on this because I don't
I know,
understand
but-
what
but
we're voting on.
I just want to ask you, you keep saying there's a lot of property. Are you intimating that there's property that this could be built other than where it is? I
Yes,
can't.
it could be built other than where it is.
That's what I
It's not
thought you were
required.
saying, not as though there's a lot of property and this is okay. Why is it being built here?
No, that there's other places that could be built that maybe don't require anything from the ZBA. And
So you're not in favor of the 10-foot then?
the 10-foot, I have objection to.
Okay.
Everything else,
okay.
I
You
know.
need to state that to us.
I assumed you did say.
Yeah, no, you were going, you thought she was
I
going
thought
the
she
other
was going the
way.
other way with it, yeah, that's it. Sorry about that, my bad, my bad.
Speaking Latin, we
Oh, yeah, these two. Take a look at this.
Okay, I thought you were saying, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to add that we could build this addition in a conforming location. However, it would be more detrimental to our neighbors because there's some views in this property. If you see that pool house in the back, the grass is not that big there. There's significant views. So if I was to put this addition somewhere else, we'd be creating more of a hardship for that neighbor who I believe is the most impacted. The neighbor directly to the south, the small skinny house, has also given us a letter of support.
Yeah.
But the size.
But they're much less affected than the one to the east.
Right, yeah. The size of your variance presents us with a conundrum.
I agree, and I don't think it will cause any precedent because it is a corner lot. There's no other house positioned in all of Cornell Estates like that. It's on a diamond shape. And if you see from the way I designed the house, we actually cut the room. It's diamond shaped. So I did not create a hardship.
It just presents a problem with the next Cornell applicant. You'll probably represent them and say, oh, you gave it to applicant, whatever number this is.
He will if he's successful.
You're right.
Well, no, what I'm trying to say is this is a unique house. There's not another diamond shaped house.
Mr. Graham, isn't it a better argument that, okay, even if you could build in a conforming location, that's only one of 5 factors? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I like his argument.
So Chris, Nicolia, maybe part of the reason you're not grasping it is the same as I. The drawing is oriented facing south,
No,
which
no, that's not.
I never understand that, Glenn. If you turn your plot plan upside down, then it will match the aerial.
No, that's not my concern. My concern is what has already been approved.
Does that give anybody else relief but me? But when I turn it upside down, then I can see the proposed addition and how it will come.
Mrs. Nicole, would you like to see the permit that was issued? It has all the items
So,
on it.
yeah, I
granted?
think we kind of really have to look at that and see what it is and sort of.
Can you submit that to us, or is that your?
It's my only copy.
You know
Can
what,
I
you
email
You
it
wanna
into
submit
the
it
board?
Yeah, in time? Weeks?
Tomorrow, yeah.
This is the building permit?
Yeah.
I think we should reserve them. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to sort it out and make sure we get it right.
Do you have any elevations drawn, Glenn?
Yes,
You could submit those.
those I can give you right now.
Yeah, let's take those.
And the neighbor most affected.
Is right there with the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Well, opposed to the stairs, but,
Just the stairs.
but
Nothing
not
that's
to the
been built.
proposed
No, the
addition.
neighbor that is opposing is across the street and next door to a 2-story roof deck that this board granted 5-foot relaxation instead of 15.
Was that your application?
Oh, I thought she had it.
I don't remember. I honestly, I don't.
Safe
I would
hands.
tell you if I
How
knew.
convenient, Mr.
But
We've all been-
again, another 66% reduction was granted. Just like the house at 11.4, that's a 50% reduction. That I'm asking the same on a corner lot.
Would they think of relocating that? We're in a compliant location, then you wouldn't have any of this aggravation.
I could push it up a little more. The problem is it takes away from the living room windows. And again, the further I push it up, the more it's going to impact the neighbor with the pool. There is views across that, if you want to call it a meadow.
The stairs that the one neighbor's in objection to, you're willing to either
Yeah,
move them or
because we still have access to the roof deck.
have access
Yes.
to it? Okay.
Can you just quickly, I'm sorry, before we reserve, where 50 Clipper Roadway, which is the letter that we're referring to, can you kind
That
of tell
one
us where it is up
directly
there?
across the street.
There's two streets, so.
Clipper to the west, right there.
That's it.
Yes.
And the subject property again is where?
That triangle piece, yes.
So it's right across the street.
But I don't, I got.
But it's also about 75 feet away when the next door neighbor has a 5-foot
I gotta
roof
ask you
deck,
this
5 feet
question,
off the
Mr. Graham.
property.
Just because where you're saying that this 50 Clipper roadway is, she writes, the roof deck is in such a position that it allows the occupants to see directly into my kitchen and living room. As uncomfortable as it has been for my family since the roof deck was built, we have never complained, hoping decent people would realize peering into someone's home is not acceptable for the most part of the.
You see, when we were in elementary. That didn't work well.
Decent people would realize peering into someone's home is not acceptable, and for the most part of the Gardo's family tries not to be obvious about it, but I cannot say that about their tenants and other people. So my question is, you're saying it's across the street, this lady's stating that the roof deck has them peer into her kitchen and living room. Is that?
Yeah, I believe our roof deck faces northwest. She is west. I spoke to Mr. Gardos about this, and I think there's some bad blood between, when she rents and he rents.
Yeah, except
So-
she's not being so off the wall about it.
But again, also the house next door to her, just to the north, was granted a 5-foot second-story
Yeah,
deck
I see.
instead of
It's very close,
15.
yeah.
So
Yep.
someone's peering
That's why
down
we
into
gotta
her either
sort it
way.
out.
Yeah.
And if I go a step further, if I was this house is not FEMA compliant. So if we lift it, everything's just going to get that much higher. Part of the reason for this addition was it is a master bedroom. I had to put it on the second floor to be FEMA compliant. The lower level of this house is not FEMA compliant. So if the alternative is to then lift the house, reposition it, it's going to be 8 foot higher in the air and staring that much further down onto the neighbor.
Understood.
But you can see from there, this is a big buffer compared to a lot of Fire Island.
Sure.
All
Appreciate that. I'm going to let the board vote too on this, but I believe we need to reserve and really dig through it, especially with that. If you could submit that
Of course.
prior permit, that would be helpful. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to reserve decision.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you.
Reserved. You know we have 62 days, we'll do the best we can. Please
Have a good
submit
night.
Next application is number 526-21, Gearwriter Management LLC. Permission to install 2 facial signs having sign area of 64 square feet each instead of permitted 32 square feet south frontage and 16 square feet east frontage. Both having a height of 40 feet instead of permitted 18 feet, Business 1 District, northwest corner of Sunrise Highway, number 4875, and Bohemia Parkway, Bohemia, New York. Ma'am, your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Katerina Grinko, Grinko, 33 West 2nd Street, Riverhead, New York, for the applicant.
How are you tonight?
Good, thank you. The applicant, Reader Management LLC, just purchased this commercial building 1 year ago, and one of their businesses is Jet Direct Mortgage, and they would like to erect 2 signs to identify themselves, 2 front signs, facial signs, at 4 square feet in size and 40 feet height. For the record, I submitted a letter which goes through the balancing test, so I don't know if you want me to go through it or if the board has any questions about the sign itself.
So you just want to put up the direct mortgage rendering that we see here? right?
Correct, yes.
That's it?
That's it.
Do they have a permit for the space available sign?
No, I don't know.
Good answer.
Good answer.
It's honest.
Did you any objection for planning? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant.
Bohemian, you just gave him Bohemian.
No, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Sorry, Tim. I gave Bohemian.
I'll give him a Holbrook and a future draft choice.
This is for you.
That's
Next application number
I'm sorry.
527-21, Long Island Contracting, Inc. and Patrick Isnardi. Permission to erect a two-story dwelling leaving a floor area ratio of 30% instead of permitted 25%, Residence B District. It's outside of Bay Place, 671.8 feet east of Saxon Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please, and welcome.
Charles J. Broody, architect, 30 Bethesda Lane, Salem, New York, 11782, representing the property owner. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As stated in the call, property owner seeks to construct a two-story addition and asking for a 30% FAR instead of the required 25.
As you know, we see up to 30% most times.
That is correct.
That's
and
all you're asking for, right?
That is
Is
correct.
that a coincidence or?
That is a great calculation. on my part.
That is good architecture.
That's,
Does anyone wish to
thank
add
you
to this
very
application?
much. And there is precedent around the corner on Inlet View, and I know this because I did many of the house lifts.
Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor? Have a great
Okay,
night.
great, thank you. Have a good
Mr.
night.
Chairman, the next application is number 528-21 to 537-21. I move
We
to,
have a second call to the.
yeah, I know.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
I would move to grant those applications.
Second.
All in favor?
All right, we have one second call. Number 508-21, Santos and Dania Cruz. Is anyone here on that application? Chairman, I move that it be marked off calendar.
Another,
Second.
But it's not being heard by us tonight. So nothing's being granted, nothing's going to happen.
their neighbors and the applicants.
Are you the applicant? Right, okay, so nothing's going to happen unless it gets re-advertised.
You got a notice this time, right?
Yeah, I just was a little confused on what, so what happened yesterday? That, are they coming back? Because you guys got a letter for us to,
So this is all a little confusing with the two-family, family use only renewals because some of these applicants applied 1 year ago and then we didn't hear them because we were Zooming. So we didn't expect our two-family renewals to have to Zoom. So now that we've gone back to in public, we are hearing the two-family renewals. So it may have been a surprise to them. They may not, they got a public notice suddenly about an application they filed over a year ago.
So you would get another notice before anything happens, okay? Thank you
Have a
for
good
coming.
night.
Sorry you had to wait.
Yeah.
Next up, Mr. Chairman, number 347-21, Kevin and Luz Muller, in accordance with the proposed written decision dated August 24th, 2021. It's granted on motion of
Nobody has their cheat sheets yet.
Mr. Nicolia, Mr. Sullivan.
All in favor?
In front of the camera.
Next, number 360-21, Christopher and Blanca L. Reyes, in accordance with the proposed written decision granted August 24th, 2021. It is granted on motion of Mr. Nicolia. Mr. Sullivan. All in favor?
All in favor? Aye.
Next application, number 382-21, Peter Wolf, in accordance with the proposed written decision dated August 24th, 2021. It is denied on motion of Mr.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Number 383-21, Waleed Shabazz and Raza Hussein. According to the proposed written decision dated August 24, 2021, it is granted on motion of Mr. Nicolia.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
You got three family houses.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that concludes our calendar tonight. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, okay.
I think, are we on or are we off?
It was still on.
Still on.
Thank you.